We want to turn now to President Trump's agenda right here at home as the Trump administration significantly ramps up its deportation efforts. According to ICE data obtained by NBC News, the Trump administration deported more than 17,200 people in the month of April, a 29% increase compared to April of last year. It's the first time this year deportations under the second Trump administration outpaced deportations under Biden during the same period last year. With me now on set is NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Julia, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. So let's start right there. What do you make of this uptick in deportations?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is the first month, as you pointed out, that they've actually deported more people than they did under Biden the same period. In part, that was because with Biden, there were so many immigrants that are arrested crossing the border, and it's much easier to deport people when they're in the hands of Customs and Border Protection than after they are living at large in the United States. But it also shows that they're not near the pace that they would want to be if Trump wanted to make good on his Inauguration Day promise and what he promised on the campaign trail for those millions and millions of deportations. In fact, if you do the math and you just keep this pace going for a year, they would be at around 200,000 deportations a year. To put that in context, Obama deported over 430,000 people in 2013. One thing they're running into is space and deportation flight issues. And of course, they want more funding from Congress, but they have ramped up in small ways. They've gone from about 4 to 5 flights a day to between 8 and 10 flights a day. They've added 47 more facilities where they can detain migrants, including in local prisons. And they are now able to arrest more people, and they're booking in more of those people.
So, Julia, just looking forward, I mean, given what you are saying, do you actually expect the pace of these deportations to continue to increase?
I do. Not necessarily by some shock and awe, explosive, exponential number, but just based on some of the things that they've put in place so far. More detention space, they're building more. If they're able to one day put tents where they wanted to in Fort Bliss, that contract has been in limbo. These are all ways that it could increase it. Of course, they would need more money from Congress in order to do that. One of the concessions Trump made in that big, beautiful bill was to go from $45 billion for ICE detention to $10 billion. So they may not get to that high level, but I think they're putting in these places. And as Axios reported last week, the White House meeting, Miller and Noem said that they wanted 3,000 arrests per day. I don't know if that's doable, but at least that pressure is not letting up.
Yeah, and they will need more resources, they argue, to do it, as you say. Let me ask you about the Trump administration asking the Supreme Court to block a lower court's order as it relates to sending migrants to a third-party country. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, if it seems like we've heard this before, it's because it's a really similar argument. Yeah. The Supreme Court already said that migrants need reasonable time to appeal if they're sent to a country that's not their own. But that's under the Alien Enemies Act. That pertained to those people who were about to be sent to El Salvador. That is largely on hold for now. It's a temporary hold. Right now, they're being asked to weigh in on the migrants who are being sent. First, they tried to send them to Libya. A judge in Massachusetts said no, they need reasonable time to appeal. And then, of course, there were the 8 sent to South Sudan. And as we know, they are now on hold temporarily in Djibouti. We need a map just to talk about all of this. But basically, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to overrule this district court judge and to put a stay on his order that says that these people need reasonable time to appeal before they're sent somewhere else. In other words, should immigrants be given a chance to say, I can't be sent to that country for X, Y, and Z reason? A reasonable appeal could be that there's a huge travel advisory to go to South Sudan right now from the State Department because it's a war-torn country. Without being able to contact their lawyer or make those appeals, that might not be considered reasonable time. They want the Supreme Court to say they don't need that amount of time.
All right, Julia Ainsley, thank you so much for your great reporting. As always, really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.